Hello and welcome to How Do I Draft a Fantasy Football Team? With your host, me, it's your fantasy football commissioner. So this is your league page. You should all be seeing pretty much this. When you click on the draft tab, you click on the team tab, your team is all empty, but those are all the spots you'll have. You click on the players tab, and this shows you all the players in general. This trend that it has selected, at least at first, is going to be useful during the season. It shows you the players that are trending up and down, available players, which is going to be everyone right now because we haven't drafted, stats leaders in this tab, and you can search for players over here in this tab on the left. So we are looking at drafting today. So let me just show you how to practice. You hit this mock draft tab, you hit start mock draft. It is automatically going to pull up the draft with you in your spot. So I'm picking last. I get that last pick. I'm going to go here in the middle because I think it's a better illustration of what you guys are all looking at. Kind of an average here. So I'm just going to hit start and we'll talk through everything as I go. So we started, we're mock drafting. So let me just pause here to start with and hold on just a sec. We're going to pause. And you won't be able to do this in the draft, but I'm just going to talk about a couple things real quick. So as you can see, we had Jalen Hurts go to team 1 here on the left. That's the first pick in the draft. Then Patrick Mahomes, then Justin Jefferson. So the pink, red, salmon color is going to be quarterbacks. The blue is wide receivers. The green is going to be running backs. Orange are tight ends, and purple are kickers. We don't have any other positions in our league. We're not playing with defenses, which is typical, but I hate defenses, and they're kind of hard to manage for beginners or people who don't actually watch football. So we've completely eliminated them. The other thing you'll notice about this, if you have played fantasy football before, is this is Superflex, which means you can start 2 quarterbacks, which means quarterbacks become much more valuable than what you're used to. So as you can see, quarterbacks are going off the board at a high rate early on. The only other position we've had go off the board is wide receiver. So take that for what it's worth. You do want to have 2 good quarterbacks to start every week, but we'll get into that more as we go through the draft strategy. So it's my pick. I'm picking at the 6th pick right here. And we're just going to throw up this menu right here. This shows us everything we can do. I've restarted the draft timer. You're going to have a minute to make each pick. If you pull this up, this is every player that's available to draft. It's your turn to draft, these draft buttons on the left that say draft will enable you to grab a player. If you click on this ADP right here, which I recommend you do at the top, so right here where it says ADP, if you just click on the top one where it says 5.4 there, you'll be able to select the top player by average draft position. So you're just using the wisdom of everyone who's already drafting, who knows this game, and you're just going to select, I'm just going to select Joe Burrow here as my first draft pick off the board by sorting that ADP, seeing he was that 5.4 average draft position. So I know I'm getting good value on him at the 6, right? That's where he's supposed to be going. And then everyone goes after me to the right here. If you're the last pick in the draft, which I am, you're going to get to go twice in a row. Or if you're the first pick in the draft, when it comes back to you in the 2nd and 3rd round of the draft, we just did the 1st round. We're in the 2nd round right now. If you're the first pick, you're going to get to go twice in a row when it comes back to you over here. So I'm on the clock again. It won't go this fast in real life, but I already have a quarterback. I already have my first quarterback, and so I want to start filling out other positions, right? So you need 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and then these slots here, the WRT and the WRTQ, you can start multiple positions in those slots. So as you're filling out your team, this is your tab you're drafting from. As you start filling out your roster, you're going to want to check what slots you already have filled and what slots you still need to fill. So I've got my QB1. I can start another quarterback down here in the WRTQ spot. But for now, I'm going to focus on filling up the rest of my starting slots, and that does include the WRTQ spot. So I'm going to pick another quarterback to sit in that second quarterback slot because you do want to be starting two quarterbacks. Quarterbacks score more points than any other position, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to resume the clock right here. I'm going to grab what I think is the second most important position in fantasy football, which is the running back. I'm going to grab Saquon Barkley, who is the top of that ADP right there, average draft position. So now when I go over my team tab here, I have my first quarterback, my first running back, and now we're coming up again. I'm going to grab a wide receiver. I like filling out having a wide receiver, a running back, and a quarterback who are all very good. I'm going to grab, again, the top guy at ADP. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Great name. You can name your team after this guy, and he's really good as well. So now we're coming back to me, and I'm going to go back to quarterback. Let's grab Aaron Rodgers. That's going to be my second quarterback. So as you can see, I'm just slowly filling out my roster. I'm going to fill up all these colored spots here, and then I'm going to worry about my bench. The exception is kicker. I'm not going to draft a kicker till really late, and I'll explain that a little later, but kickers just aren't as valuable as the other positions, and you'll figure out why once we get into the season. But I'm going to grab another running back here. I'm, again, just going to take the top guy in ADP. He's got this little R next to his name. If they've got other letters next to their name, like Q or S, you want to be a little bit careful about drafting them because Q means questionable, which means he might not play. S means suspended, which means he's definitely not going to play. But R just means rookie, which just means it's their first year in the league. So I'm going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs there. He's going to fill into my second running back spot right here as I go to team. So I've got, you can see I'm starting to fill up my roster, right? So I'm just looking, I need a wide receiver here, the blue, a tight end, the orange, and then I can play any of the three wide receiver, running back, or tight end in these WRT spots. So I want to fill all of those before I look at my kicker, my K slot, or any of these BN slots, which are bench slots, right? So the bench players you're going to have in reserve, but they are not going to score you points unless you put them in one of the colorful starting lineup spots, right? Okay, so we're just going to keep filling out my starting lineup. I need another wide receiver, and I need a tight end. I will grab the tight end. I like George Kittle. He's good. San Francisco 49ers. For people who are coming into this completely blind, I really do recommend you just follow ADP and just fill up your roster like this, right? It doesn't have to be exactly like this. You can take the positions in any order you want, really. And if you just sit on all ADP, this all tab, instead of going position by position, this all tab and sorted by ADP, you're going to do fine. Try to avoid these players with like the Qs or the S's next to their name, because those players might not be able to play as soon, some of them, but really just focus on filling up these colorful slots first. I still need a blue slot, right? So that's wide receiver. So I'm just going to go over to the wide receiver tab. I'm going to take this guy who's the top of ADP. That's DJ Moore. And you can kind of see, if you want to pay attention to like who else around you is taking what. That's a little more advanced, and I wouldn't really worry about it too much. Focus more on building, just filling up all these colorful slots. So now I can take wide receiver, running back, or tight end to fill this WRT spot. So I'm going to go over to this flex tab, and it's going to show me only players who can fit in that WRT spot. And I'm sorted by ADP still right here. So I'm just going to take Christian Watson, top guy, and he's going to slot right into that WRT spot. No problem. Cool. So now I'm almost finished filling up my starting lineup. I'm going to stay on this flex tab. I just took a wide receiver. You don't want to have too many tight ends. I'll let you in on that right now. You don't want to have too many of these orange spots. 2 to 3 on your team max should be what you're going for of the orange guys. And I just took another blue guy. So I'm going to try to get a green guy here. So I'm going to go to this Rachaad White right here. Take him. A couple spots down the board. But now that means if I have to play someone, let's say, because players get injured, right, in the NFL. It's a very violent sport. And so you can expect players to get injured on your team. It will happen. And so let's say, right, Saquon Barkley, who's my best running back, he gets injured, right? So now I still need to fill that slot every week. And so now Rachaad White down here, he can move up into that slot. And then I can take one of my guys who will be on the bench, and I can put him in the WRT slot. And that gives me some flexibility to do whatever I want. Okay, so now we're going to start filling up the bench. I'm going to pause again real quick because I was talking through a point there. But as you can see, we've started to fill up, or we filled up all of our colorful spots except for kicker, which we're not worrying about till later. And we just need to fill up all these gray spots. So we want to have the same positions, right? We want to be able to say, oh, Joe Burrow here, quarterback, is going to miss this week. He can't play this week for whatever reason. His mom called and told him he can't play. Well, that sucks. So I want to have a quarterback in one of these bench spots. So I can take that quarterback and I can put him in for Joe Burrow, and that way I don't get 0 points. I still get some points. Probably not as many as Joe Burrow was going to get me, but I still get some. And the same thing with Saquon Barkley, with Jahmyr Gibbs, with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I want to have backups on the bench so that if for any reason those guys can't play, I can just put a different guy in. So as I fill up my bench, I want to think about that, about who can go into what slot, basically. So we're just going to draft like a miniature version of what we've already done for these last 5 picks. I'm probably going to go on this build like 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, and 2 wide receivers, something like that, or maybe one more tight end. We'll just figure out, based on average draft position, that ADP, who's going to be the most valuable, who's going to be able to fit into what slot. And for right now, we're just going to go with Mike Evans. He's a blue. You need to start at least 2 blues, but you can start up to 4 blues. We're going to grab this blue right here, who is at the top of ADP. He's that first guy going on to our bench right here. So now we're just going to fill up the rest of these gray spots. I do want to have another quarterback. Try to get 3 quarterbacks. You're going to want to have one in case one of your main 2 goes down. Quarterbacks score more points than any other position, so keep that in mind. But bad quarterbacks don't score more than good running backs and wide receivers and tight ends. Does that make sense? So I'm going to grab Jordan Love. He's going to be my backup quarterback here. And so now I'm just starting to fill up this bench. I have a backup blue. I have a backup pink. I'm going to look for a backup green here. Let's go get a backup green, which is the RB, the running back. I really like the Denver Broncos, so I'm going to take Samaje Perine right here. And he's going to slot in there on my bench as well. That's one of my boys. And he can go into those green spots or these WRT spots. So I've got 2 spots left here and the kicker spot here. So right here, I'm going to pick one more spot of the flex variety. And let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and get a backup orange. A backup orange. He's at the top of average draft position. I know I'm not getting bad value on that. And so if you ever just want to do all or just do flex, especially if you want to just do flex, and sort by ADP, and just take the top guy who's there, you're never going to be getting really bad value there. If he has an S by his name, maybe don't do that. But most of these Qs, you're going to be fine. The S you should be a little bit more worried about. I'm going to grab a kicker here. No, I'm not. Sorry. I'm going to wait till the last round to grab a kicker. If you do feel like you want to get a kicker in the 14th round, which is what we're in right here, we've drafted 13 guys, and we have 14, and we have 2 to go, then that's cool. That's fine. I like to wait till the last round, because I feel like I can still get value at the other positions all the way down. I'm just going to take the most valuable of the blue and green who's still on the board here. And you know what? I'm going to take an extra green because they get hurt at a higher rate. So I'm going to take Tank Bigsby here. I like his name. Can name your team after this guy. That fills up my bench. And the only thing I have left is a kicker. And kicker is the least important position, but you've got to have one. I'm just going to take the top guy at average draft position, Jake Elliott. He's one of the best offenses in the NFL. And that's it. That's my whole team, right? So you can see everyone's whole team on this screen here. If you scroll up, you go to the team tab here. That's my whole team, right? And so I have guys on the bench who can go into different roles here up top if I need them to. But these guys who are on the BN spots, they're not going to score me points in week 1. And these guys in the colorful spots will be scoring all of my points in week 1. I will explain matchups at a later date. I will explain waiver wire also later on, but that is the basics of how to draft a team. That is almost exactly what drafting a team will look like. I come away at the end here with 3 quarterbacks: Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love. I come away with 5 running backs. That would be Saquon Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs, Rachaad White, and then Samaje Perine and Tank Bigsby. 5 running backs. I like to have an extra running back on most of my fantasy teams. Running backs get hurt, get injured, and can't play at a much higher rate than any other position. So I end up with 4 wide receivers in this build, which are Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Moore, Christian Watson, and Mike Evans here. And then for tight ends, this is probably the least important position, but don't completely forget about it. I have 2 of them, George Kittle here and Dalton Kincaid here. And lastly is kicker, who is Jake Elliott here. And then these flex spots, right? Once I have this team, I'm going to be able to move any of my WRs, so Mike Evans, or my RBs, Samaje Perine, Tank Bigsby, or my TEs, Dalton Kincaid, into any of those WRT spots. And in this WRTQ spot, I can also put Jordan Love, but I can also put any of the other guys. The only guy on my team who can't go into that slot is Jake Elliott, who's a K, right? any of the wide receivers, any of the running backs, any of the tight ends, any of the quarterbacks can go in this spot that Aaron Rodgers is in. And that is what makes this spot so valuable. But you usually want to have a quarterback in that spot. Again, they score the most points. So just keep that in mind. Practice drafting at least a couple of times and message me with any questions you might have, okay? I hope this was helpful. I hope it wasn't too long.